IPMNation.com.
Good evening, welcome, and thank you for tuning in to this special edition of PolitiPod. This is the first, and depending on how it goes, maybe the last, of a new tradition here. In the past, responses to joint statements to the Congress have been given not only by the Republicans and the Democrats and even the Green Party, but the Tea Party has given a response, and this year BET will give their response as well. On that note, we decided to make our own on-the-spot response to the State of the Union. As mentioned in Sunday's press release, our own Tom Myers, comedian, word from the street writer, and commentator, has been chosen by the staff, actually myself and Tom, to deliver PolitiPod's response to Trump's joint statement to the Congress. As is his wont, Tom Myers will be delivering this response from deep inside an underground bunker in an undisclosed location somewhere on Bonomo Island. Oh, here he is, Tom Myers, about to deliver our response, a PolitiPod first, to a joint statement to the Congress. Let's have a listen.
I'm Tom Myers. In giving this response, I am aware that this can either go very well or this can go horribly wrong. Reminds me of the mindset voters had when they went to the polls a couple of Novembers ago to choose between the lesser of two of the worst nominees for president this country has ever seen. Tonight marks the 44th anniversary of the final State of the Union speech given by President Richard Nixon. Just saying, maybe the Republican Party really does have a sense of humor. For President Trump's first State of the Union address, on the tickets to the House Gallery where one can view the speech in person, the word union is misspelled as unium. Somebody check. That may be the Russian spelling. I think it's wonderful that the Trump administration can connect with its supporters by refusing to use spell check. The misspelling was one letter away from reading State of the Unisom. Take it to help with the very idea of the utter terror felt by most Americans about this administration and the need for a good night's sleep. You're going to need it. The designated survivor for tonight was Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue, which is comforting, considering he looks like Ernest Borgnine's corpse if it came back to life and contracted Bell's palsy. So we start with a listing of what is happening in the Russian investigation. We have charges against a former campaign official, an administration official, subpoenas for another campaign official and former administration official. Wait, that's the state of the investigation. It's very strong, but that's for another podcast. In the well of the House chamber, we saw the true profile of Americana. In one section, we saw a diverse, colorfully dressed crowd, full of life experiences and empathy for those they represent. In another section, we saw old white people in dark mourning wear and ties not unlike the kind Jerry Orbach used to wear in the early years of the TV show Law and Order. I was quite encouraged by certain aspects of the president's speech. For starters, he seems to have gotten that sniffing thing under control. I know that ignited rumors that the president was on drugs. It's easy to dismiss that, but really, have you heard some of the crap he says? How can he say that stuff while sober? There was no intro music as the president entered, owing to a disagreement as to what the music should be. The organizers wanted the traditional Hail to the Chief as the president's intro music rather than Trump's suggestions, Bad to the Bone by George Thorogood, or the Classics 4's 1968 hit Stormy. No word yet on whether the Democrats' response will be introduced by It's My Party, and I'll cry if I want to. Trump's opening comments included how we have endured troubles, fires, and storms, and in his case, a marital storm caused by a stormy. Trump took credit for the gains made in the stock market, not mentioning that it was President Obama who tripled the stock market in his 8 years. He does have some experience claiming credit for stuff he didn't do. For example, there is the Trump real estate empire. In adopting the moniker, the New American Movement, the president stated that there has never been a better time to start living the American dream. As the head writer of a podcast focusing on lampooning political figures, I could not agree with the president more. Trump called for unity tonight, but was so preoccupied by playing to his party that his spine was frozen and twisted to the right. The president said he's eliminated more regulations in our first year than any administration in history. And I just hope those regulations don't include making sure a grandstand can withstand, say, a 71-year-old, 6'3", 239-pound man. Trump said he has called on Congress to empower every cabinet secretary with the authority to remove federal employees who undermine the public trust or fail the American people. I wonder... best not to jump to conclusions. Tonight, the president said, we are now an exporter of energy to the world. In addition, we are also the top exporter of flags, gasoline, and lighter fluid to the rest of the world. When the president said, we also believe that patients with terminal conditions should have access to experimental treatments that could potentially save their lives, I was expecting Jeff Sessions to mutter under his breath, not pot, anything but pot. The president said, together we can reclaim our building heritage. Thankfully, that's the only heritage he said he wanted to reclaim tonight. The president's idea of paid family leave seems to be if you're a dreamer, the government will pay to make sure your family leaves the country. The president wants vocational schools. What does he have in mind? Trump University 2.0? The president says he is extending an open hand to all Americans. A really, really big hand with long fingers, much longer than they look on TV. And you know what that means. When the president said that his duty is to defend Americans, I had this mental image of Vladimir Putin choking on his vodka, laughing. When the president talked about the 4 pillars of immigration reform, he didn't mention his treasured 5th pillar. Taco Bells must go. Unless, of course, they carry the equivalent of his beloved McRib. The president mentioned that in 2016 we lost 64,000 Americans to drug overdoses. No word on how much of those overdoses were caused by that year's election coverage. Tonight the president said that the U.S. is restoring our strength and standing abroad. We're standing alone, of course, but we're still standing abroad. The president said terrorists are not criminals, they are unlawful enemy combatants. Oh, so from now on, court cases won't call them defendants, they'll now be called lawful enemy combatants. So much for the end of political correctness. So it appears we will keep the prison at Guantanamo Bay open. Look at it this way. It will be a great tropical paradise for people like Mike Flynn, Rick Gates, and Paul Manafort. When I saw and heard Trump showering praise on General Mattis, I thought, wow, Trump sharing the spotlight is like the Cookie Monster passing the Oreos. You just don't see it very often. The president says it's the people who are making America great again. Well, it sure isn't the White House or Congress. So I apologize if this response seems to have gone on too long, but, well, the president did it first. There was a lot of stuff to respond to. In conclusion, I think we can all agree that this speech has shown that Donald Trump can be truly presidential. He got through a speech written by other people without drooling out of one side of his mouth. He didn't spend 10 minutes just saying no collusion over and over again. Hell, he didn't even pull up his shirt or drop his pants in front of everybody, which is more than we can say for LBJ. So indeed, tonight was the night Donald J. Trump, well and truly becoming president. and so it shall remain until tomorrow when he goes back to being just a spoiled, ignorant, bloated, orange bigot with an itchy Twitter finger. Your tuning into this special episode of PolitiPod is greatly appreciated. From all of us here, I'm Tom Myers. Thank you. May God help you, and may God help the United States of America.
PolitiPod Special Edition is a joint effort of Tom Bickle, William Ham, Alice Jacobson, Paul Lander, Tom Myers, Matt Nisanoff, Claire Temple, with thanks also going to Congress, BET, Politico, NBC News, CBS News, Time Magazine. PolitiPod can be downloaded from soundcloud.com/PolitiPod. You can find us on Facebook, Google+, Snapchat, Tumblr, or Twitter at PolitiPod. For all of us at PolitiPod, this is Matt saying, all rise. That started a lot of trouble around here lately.
IPMNation.com